All right, guys, welcome back to Matt Money. Very Kyle-like intro there, passive income investor, boom, in your face. But today we're gonna jump right into it. So before I really talk about this one thing that I might do that would cause me to sell my entire dividend stock portfolio, I wanna cover one thing and one thing only. And I wanna talk and start from the basics, okay? I think a lot of people, when they join the channel, they basically are still looking for that one small thing that could get them wealthy within a day or 2 days or a month or even a year, so that they can never have to work every single day of their life. But to be honest, it's not that easy, right? And I think that, you know, the stock market is a vast place that confuses a lot of people because there's not one single strategy that works for everybody. But if you take some time and you learn a little bit and you try to understand what fits your sort of nature, you'll find that one single strategy that works for you. So before we actually jump into the one thing that might cause me to completely change my entire strategy that I've been utilizing for the past 6-7 years, let's just walk about those 5 key things that I want you to think about when you invest in your own portfolio. So first and foremost, I'm going to be talking about something today which I've touched a little bit over the past couple of years, but more so over the past 2-3 months. And a lot of people have been asking me a good bit about it. And to be honest, I didn't learn all this on my own. I had a lot of help from Dave from Hidden Freedom Investing, Jerry from GW Investing, and also, and most importantly, Randy from Retire with Options, and Cloud Ninja as well. And by Cloud Ninja, I mean Stock Ninja. So yes, definitely just want to give those guys a quick shout out. But before we jump into that key thing, I want to talk about 5 things. So, and this is firmly about how things can do your investing style and shape your investing style. And the reason why I want to touch on this is because I'm ever learning in my individual investing style, and maybe I am giving sort of a clickbaity title, basically saying the fact that, okay, hey, I'm just going to get rid of all my dividend stocks. It's not going to be the case, but you'll understand a little bit after I kind of touch into what I want to touch into a little bit later on. But the 5 key things that I want to talk about for you and your investing strategy is, number 1, your objective, right? I tell this to everybody all the single time when they start asking me like, oh, what do I need to do? Tell me what this, tell me what that. It's like, well, dude, I can't help you unless you know what your own objective is. Why are you investing in the market? And you'll hear me say that. You'll hear Ryan from Independent Investors say that. You'll hear a lot of different people say that in some form or fashion. What are you doing this for, and what do you need the money for in the future? And that ties a lot into what your time horizon is. Do you need this money next year? Do you need this money in 20 years? You're gonna invest completely differently if that's the case. Number 3, what's your risk tolerance? Could you lose all this money tomorrow and be like, okay, you know what, I'll start from scratch? Or do you need this money in 2 years, 3 years, to the point where you're like, you know what, 10% losses within a couple months is not my game. I can't play that. I need this money no matter what. Then 4, how active or passive you want to be in your investing strategy. You know, is it something that that you want to look at every single day, or you want to say look at it once a year and kind of just set it and forget it and have it do its thing, right? And then number 5, how often are you going to be contributing to the portfolio? Is it going to be once a month? Is it going to be once a year? Is it going to be never, right? This might be your only $1,000 and the only opportunity you have to invest. You're going to invest completely differently than if you're investing $500, $600 a month on a relatively consistent basis. So hopefully that helps you guys. I get that question quite a bit, and I talk a lot about it in the streams. So if you guys are following those streams on Passive Income Educator, you know, you'll probably hear that a bunch of times, but it's really important and prudent for you to understand those 5 key things for yourself before you even start thinking about doing some of the things that I want to do with my potential portfolio, because now it's starting to get its own kind of legs, and that might be scary. It's kind of scary to me as well, because I've kind of been into this dividend investing thing for such a long time. You know what I mean? Like, I have $560,000 in a dividend portfolio that I kind of been like, dividend portfolio, dividend portfolio, dividend portfolio. And now I've started to kind of branch off in these little offshoots that I'm really starting to learn and understand and do relatively well in those things, where before I've kind of just been focused on the income side of things. Now I can start to focus on the growth side of the portfolio and understand a little bit more of the tools that I have in my hands, and not so much focus on getting that income up. And at this point, you're probably seeing the screen come up here with the normal portfolio, about $560 or so thousand dollars, $17,000 a year of dividend income, not including the 401k of $160,000. But one of the key things that I want to jump into today, and like I said, this is a huge shout out to a lot of different folks that have really been coaching me over the past couple months or so, really helping me step into the comfort level of options, basically. And what I mean by options isn't necessarily buying options, but selling options. So being able to capture premium, capture time decay, and capture IV in your favor to be able to basically get money over time. So you get your money day one, but you can capture it relatively quickly based off of time decay and a whole bunch of other things that are a little bit more complex. And if you guys are interested, we have a video on passiveincomeeducator.com. If you just become a member, there's a really nice hour and a half long course. Or you could just ask Randy from Retire with Options or Dave. I'm sure they'd be more than happy as well to help you out. But that 1.5 hour class walks through kind of like a lot of the nomenclature that I'm still like not as up to date with considering I'm still relatively new at this compared to some of the other folks. But at the same time, I've been relatively good about understanding some good strategies that folks have. And so at this point, you're probably seeing what's going on in my particular portfolio. So what I've basically done here is it's not a very good way of tracking it. So let me zoom in a little bit here for you guys, maybe get this like to 150, maybe expand it a little bit. But what you'll see initially right off the bat here is the total profit that I kind of have for the month of October. Now you could be like, well, anybody can make this up, right? Like anybody can make up this small little crappy spreadsheet. I'm gonna make it a little bit better, but these are real trades. I don't have the dates in which I did them, but I started at basically the beginning of October, and I have the expiry dates and what exactly I kind of did here. I don't have the strike dates or anything like that. I need to go back and do that. But this is relatively quick. Like I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't, I guess, getting ahead of myself because I was calculating it kind of trade by trade, putting it into, I'll just show you my monthly sort of dividend analysis, or sorry, my forecasting and receive tab that I have here. And you can kind of see this options income, and like at this point, like you get to see all the different numbers kind of in this line here. And I was just like, you know what, am I even doing this right? Let me go back from day one of October and see, because there's a lot of options kind of coming in and out of here, buys and sells, and you'll see that all throughout October. But keep in mind, yeah, I mean, this is a little bit more of an active strategy, or it can be, depending on if that's what you want it to be. But just kind of going through, I mean, I've taken in $10,000 worth of credits, and I've paid out $1,700 worth of debits, altogether being about $8,300 in profit this month. And so there's 3 or so big trades that I've kind of made that have really made a lot of this money up. And I guess the first and foremost would be Palantir. I sold a put option on Palantir for $8 in November 2021. And I sold 15 contracts of that at $8. So that's 8 times 1,500 is $12,000. So it's a $12,000, basically setting aside $12,000 to be able to get $3,600 in premium. And all I'm basically obligating myself to do is potentially buy Palantir at $8 a share if it is $8 or below by November 2021 timeframe. Now I can close this at any time for profit or loss. At the moment it's about $1,000 up considering what it is. So I could probably buy it back for $2,600 and pocket that $1,000 and change. But right now, I mean, I get that $3,600 on day one. So I can use that to go to the grocery store, use it to pay my rent. But I have to kind of keep that $12,000 locked either in margin or in cash in my account to be sure that, hey, come November next year, if I don't close out this option and it's below $8, I have to buy that $12,000 worth of Palantir stock. Which for me, not a big deal because I'm a firm believer long-term in Palantir. So I don't think in a year's time, Palantir will be worth less than $8. But also, if it was, I probably would buy more because I'm a long-term believer in the stock of Palantir. Then the other one was mostly today. I made about $2,000 just today as well, doing Intel Corp. So Intel had pretty bad earnings yesterday. Apparently they're having some issues with some of their software and chips. And so maybe there's more technicalities between that. But I knew it was going to open about 9 to 10% down today. So that would make some of the premiums kind of go haywire. IV, so implied volatility would kind of skyrocket, give you an opportunity to capture some really good premium. So I basically bought at the money puts here on both Intel at $49 and $47.50, and basically was able to capture about $2,000's worth. So I basically said, hey, you know, I'd be willing to buy 2,000 shares of Intel. So that's about, what is that? $90,000 worth of Intel, I think. I'm not very good with math. $9,000 worth of Intel. Is it $9,000? I'm not very good with math. I'm not good with math. So, $90,000 worth of Intel. No. $90,000 worth of Intel, which I'm not that good at math. But anyway, I got $2,000 for it. Worst case scenario is I can continue to kind of keep this ball in the air by something called rolling. Like I said, not going to get too technical in this sort of particular video. If you want more, ask Dave or Hot Randy. They're my guys to kind of go to and kind of be coaching along with me on some of this stuff. But even if you were to kind of take that out, so $3,600 for Palantir trade and this $2,000, that'll get you about $5,600. Even if you were to kind of take that out of this $8,300 of profit, let's just take that out, I'm still walking away with, what is that, $2,700 worth of options, which options income that I'm kind of making for this month. And, you know, with relative ease, I would say, you know, it kind of took a couple months to kind of get the hang of it and understand kind of what I was doing. And now that I do know what I'm kind of doing, I feel pretty confident that it's something that I'm going to continue to dabble in for the near future. And to be honest, this has taken a fraction of the amount of money that I've needed to invest in a, say, dividend portfolio to generate the same amount of income. Now keep in mind, this doesn't mean I'm going to get rid of my dividend income portfolio entirely, but it does mean that I can use some of this income that I'm getting from options to reinvest back into the dividend portfolio and continue to grow my cash position to be able to increase the amount of cash secured puts or just an options income that I can generate as a whole. Now, of course, this isn't all cash secured puts that I'm kind of doing here. Some of it is covered calls as well, just based off of the investments I do have in my dividend investing portfolio. So in some cases, I have 400, 500 shares of certain organizations like Realty Income or AT&T or Wells Fargo. And sometimes I want to generate additional income off of that. So working with these guys, I've also started to understand a little bit more about, you know, what you can do in a covered call if it's just not really going your way, or it's kind of going above your strike price, and you might actually have to get your shares called away. If you want them called away, it's not a big deal, but if you don't, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of walk away, especially if you really like that company. You can continue to kind of keep that ball in the air, close out a previous position, open another position, almost risk-free. Not necessarily risk-free, but you can kind of keep that profit kind of going, maybe get a little bit more premium in your pocket. It might necessarily kind of decrease your kind of rate of return in the long run, but at the same time, you're not losing any money. And anyway, I might be making it sound worse than it is, but at the same time, it's allowing you to kind of keep the ball in the air, gives you more time to let the option kind of go in your favor, and gives you the opportunity to kind of make more choices, right? Gives you more options for your options. So anyway, I just think that this is a really cool way to kind of increase the income coming from the portfolio. Like I mentioned, it's $8,300 in the month of October so far, and we still have next week to kind of go. I hope to close out some of these positions by the end of the month or end of the week next week. Of course, depending on if I close out some of these, this might go down a little bit because I have to come out of pocket. But so some of this is realized, some of this is unrealized at the moment, I guess you could say. But right now, I mean, if you kind of consider it, I have in my pocket $8,300 in terms of income from options, because when you write an option or cash secured put, you basically get that income day one. Now I might have to buy back some of it to close out and eliminate some of that risk, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So sometimes you have to do that to make sure you take some of that risk off the table. But anyway, really want to help you guys potentially add something like this to your portfolio. Like I said, it's not something that I'm going to do entirely, but it's a question that we've kind of asked ourselves amongst the there's many more of us kind of talking, but the 3 or 4 people that I've kind of had influence me the most during this kind of process and adding this sort of strategy to my income streams is we're like, well, why do we even need dividend income at this point? And we all acknowledge that dividend income is extremely valuable, because you can see how many trades I've made here on the screen. I mean, it's, you know, a decent amount, and some of them are buying and closing some of the trades. So it is like one trade on either side, buying and selling it. And that shows up as 2 line items. But at the end of the day, you have to be a little bit more active. You don't always have to be as active if you don't want to be. But if you want to make some quick money, you know, sometimes these options can swing 60%, you know, in your favor relatively quickly, and you're like, well, do I want to wait for that extra 40%, or should I just close it out, pocket my 60%, and kind of move on to that, take that capital and move on to the next opportunity? And so, you know, it allows you to kind of recycle that capital a little bit and kind of accelerate that snowball. But at the same time, it requires a little bit of effort. Dividend investing, if you pick the right companies, you literally can be passive and hands-off and still get that check every single month. And so that's the beauty of that is, you know, yes, there can be some, say, dividend cuts coming from this particular part of the portfolio, and we've seen that through Wells Fargo, Disney, and things of the like. But at the end of the day, hey, with this money that I have in here, I'm gonna get 17 grand next year. And probably more, hoping to get 21,000 if I continue to play my cards right and continue to invest capital into the portfolio. So, you know, I don't need to necessarily do anything other than just kind of hold those shares. Yes, a company might cut dividends, but another company might raise dividends. And so it's very much about what fits into your strategy, going very much into what we talked about earlier, those 5 key things. If you want to be extremely passive and you're looking for that income and you don't want to do anything, man, I mean, dividend investing might be for you. But if you want to make a little bit more of that money and you want to have a little bit more fun, trade active, but also if you know what you're doing, eliminate a lot of the risk, then this is something that you might be able to add into your repertoire of option or income producing abilities that you can do. Now, not to say that there's no risk associated with it, there is, but once you understand a little bit more about the tools that are at hand and how you can manipulate those tools to make you profit and eliminate some of that risk, and or at least keep the ball in the air while you try to get things back in your favor, then it kind of eliminates some of that, you know, and allows you to manage that risk. So yes, there's risk, but it's more about risk management at that point rather than complete capital risk at hand. So anyway, hopefully that made a little bit of sense. I'm still really new at it, but it's a great opportunity that I think a lot of you guys can use. I recommend looking at Randy with Retire with Options and Dave from Hidden Freedom and GW. I mean, they're utilizing this as well as Stock Ninja and a bunch of others as well. So I apologize, I'm just shouting out those 3, 4, but those are the ones I've kind of interacted with most. And hopefully you guys continue to really look at this and watch my progress in the future. More than happy to help in any way that I can. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, man, but otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Really hope you guys are enjoying this kind of new format of video. Haven't really gotten so much good response on the previous one. I don't know if it's because people don't like looking at my face. That's perfectly fine. That's just the way it comes with the territory. I mean, I was born with it, so you can't really change it all too much, but I really hope you guys are enjoying this new kind of transitioning, because it takes a little bit more time to edit the videos than what I'm used to. Normally I just kind of throw the computer screen on there and kind of go. Maybe I edit a little bit, but kind of going back and forth does take a little bit more editing. And so if you guys could just let me know by either hitting the like button or leaving a comment down in the comment section down below, it would really help me out. And of course, if this video kind of helps you out in any sort of way or form, share it with friends, share it with family, especially the very beginning part where I'm kind of talking about the 5 key things for investing and getting your strategy set up before you really have invested your first dollar, because otherwise you're just going to be heading down the wrong path from the very first dollar that you invest, and could turn you off from investing forever. So anyway, guys, been talking for about 21 minutes now. Hopefully that video was helpful, and I'll talk to you guys on the next video. Cheers.